Hey folks, it's Ben. I'm here with another exciting, awesome video. We're working on the 2002 Pontiac Grand Prix, the 3.8 liter naturally aspirated V6. And this is a video on how to install spark plugs. Notice I didn't say change spark plugs because I've already taken them out. So here we have the assembly of 6 that we have here. And then reading the spark plugs, this spark plug, if I put it on screen, is okay. It's a little bit orangey, just a hair, a little bit of white. I think the white means it's a hair lean. I've got 2 cylinders, 2 and 4. This one especially that I might want to start looking at the injectors for. Everything is pretty much the same except this one's got a little bit more white than all the others. Now my car has 104,000 miles on it, so it's time to change the plugs. To be honest with you, I typically wouldn't. These plugs are actually fairly good looking. The issue I was running into, especially on a few of them, was that the hex is starting to die. So I might not be able to get these plugs in or out again just because of the steel on them starting to rust so bad. So it's time to change the plugs. It's time to do them anyway. I would love to replace them with AC Delcos, but they're gross expensive. So we've actually switched to NGK plug. It's an iridium plug, just like the stock ones are. I keep moving around on my camera person here. And these all have to be gapped to 60 thousandths. So my traditional lawnmower gapping tool doesn't go that high. So I actually had to buy one that goes up to 60 thousandths. And if you run these up along the scale, they are about 59. Enough that I'm not going to mess with them. I think that's close enough. The other things that we're going to be doing for this video is we got the plugs we got to drop in the car. I'm actually going to put some anti-seize on them just to help lubricate them as on their way in. Gives me a false sense of security that these are coming out, because the reality is I'm never taking these out. They're in for another 100,000 miles, and if the car lives that long, we're all winning. And then we're also going to be doing wires. So we got our spark plugs, and then we also have some wires. So here we've just got some generic Napa 7mm 6-cylinder wires that we're going to change out. I haven't lifted any wires off the car as of yet, just because you don't want to mess up firing order. So we'll do them one at a time as soon as the spark plugs get in the car. But for now, let's go ahead and double check. I'm going to check all the gaps to make sure they're all set. And then we're going to grease them up a little bit, and we'll watch me put them in the car. Now, when taking these plugs out, it came out relatively easy. And I start with the front ones just to make sure that I know approximately how tight they're going to be in the hole and what I can expect in the back plug. So I usually start with the easiest and always hand thread them in. And these plugs here actually point towards the passenger side, so I can just hopefully float one into the hole here. And then you feel it, and she starts biting in the rotation there. And I will hand wiggle it in as far as I can, just to make sure I've got my thread started up and I don't cross thread them. That's the biggest thing here, is you don't want to cross thread anything. So that plug is well on its way. In fact, I think I might get it almost down to seated. So that's one plug. Now we have to do the other 2. The key is to make sure your hole's fairly clean and clear and ready to go. Now my plugs, and you can barely, if you come over here, you can see that the plug's just hiding out right there. They're not tightened in yet, of course. Now I did put a little bit of anti-seize on these. That anti-seize is good to about 1600 Fahrenheit. I'm sure there are hotter ones out there, but that just happens to be what I actually have. So we'll go with this guy here. I like working with the 3.8 liter just because it's a nice engine bay size. I can get my arms in here. I have fairly thin arms. That helps a lot. But and it's a job I'd rather not do, but it's one of those critical ones that it can affect fuel economy. That being said, this car is getting about 25 miles per gallon as is, but it's having a couple issues with hot starts. So one of the things you want to do is read your plugs. And like I said, I pulled them out and said, I don't know if these are going to go back in. So we'll just change them with new ones. So that one's well on our way. We got the last front one to do, and then we'll snug these guys down, and then we'll do the back. Now I'm using a 5/8 inch socket because that's what the spark plugs fit for, and I actually run an adapter to push it up to a 1/2 inch drive. I'm going to wiggle it onto the plug, and I'm going to make sure that's got good grip, and it does. Like I say, I almost seated this one. Then I'm going to take my ratchet Make sure it's going the right way. And that's what I like about ratchets, is I can check it out here and be like, yep, I'm turning it the right way. I come in along the front, snap it in there, and then we're gonna torque these to 20 foot-pounds because they're new. If they were used plugs, like put them back in, I guess it's 11 foot-pounds. But that being said, if you put in enough plugs, you know how much that is. Long story short, it's not a lot. You're mostly just seating them, and that's about it. So that one's in. We'll wander over to this guy here. Pull the socket back off. I like to pull the socket off and wiggle it around just a bit to make sure I'm firmly seated on the spark plug, and like this one had another half rotation on it. Put my socket in, ratchet I mean. Just enough to give it a little bit. The purposes of putting it in that tight is you want to make sure it makes a good seal, obviously, and that a lot of heat is coming out of this plug. So it sits against the block and transfers heat out of the plug if it's torqued correctly. Otherwise, if it's too loose, it won't. The other thing being is that if it's too tight, then you risk breaking the ceramic inside the plug, and that's not cool either. So this one was just about seated, and that's it. So these front 3 plugs are done. Let me show you how much fun the back ones are. So these back plugs, it's easier to just get on the car at this point. And they also point towards the passenger side to a minor degree. The only plug that's really a super pain, and that's not really a pain, is I guess this is number 6 cylinder, the one facing the driver, because the O2 sensor is right here. So it doesn't let you really get much of an extension on there, but you can reach in obviously and get her started threaded. And it's mostly feeling around. That's why I like to do the front ones first, is because you're gonna do the back ones by feel. The other thing to remember is also that they spin the other way, right? Because they're facing you now, they're not away from you. So just remember that. It's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey to the plug, not necessarily to you. So that one's in. And the last plug, this one's a little tight if you got larger arms, just because the heater core cables are the tubes, pipes, hoses are right here. So they make access not quite as easy. In fact, I'm gonna try it with the other arm here. All right, so this, I guess number 2 cylinder was fairly tricky. I had to get some of the dirt out of the hole there and clean my plug off again. And it was kind of grumpy going in, which probably means there's bits and pieces in the threads, but I'm gonna go ahead and put my socket on there now. I did make sure that it went in far enough that I had it threaded. And that's the key part, is once again, keep it threaded. The socket's taking it in a little further. We're definitely not cross-threading it, so that's perfect. This one is actually fairly good for access. There's just enough space in here that with this little 3/8 to half extension, it pops it out just where it needs to be. There's that plug. Now for this last plug, because the O2 sensor is right there, I actually have to switch over to my 3/8 ratchet. That seems to work the best for it. Just the ratchet itself, no 1/2-inch adapter. So that's all the space I have to get to this plug. And this one I have to pull on it a little bigger because the wrench handle isn't as large, so it's not giving me as much torque multiplication factor. There. So now my plugs are torqued, and that completes getting the plugs changed. But of course your car's not going to run unless the old sparky wheelie thingies have these little fire tubes called wires to do. So let's do that part next. Alright, so I've got it's probably a fairly generic kit for the V6, although to be honest with you, these long ones obviously go in the back, and these go in the front. But we're going to try to match them up. I imagine most V6s are the same. Like I said, it's from Napa. Kit runs about 50 bucks, but it's probably worth it. We'll find out for sure. It's a premium cable for my car, so we'll run with that. I've got a screwdriver here, and what I'm going to do next is we're going to pop off these cable looms so that we can start switching out plugs. So we're going to do the front 3 first, and we'll compare the lengths to the lengths that I have. Although, like I said, the 3 short ones are going to be up front because they just go from the coil packs here right to the front. So I'm guessing that they're not going to be too hard to change, but we want to make sure we do number 1 first, and we change the whole wire out so we don't get any mismatches, because if you do that, that's a hot mess you don't want to get into. There we go. That guy's open, and this is a lonely guy. It only has 2 wires. So that guy's open. Barely. There we go. And that's it for the front wires. That's cool. So let's go ahead and start off with cylinder number 1, since that's the shortest wire we have. So we'll take this wire out, and these are just draped in where they were. And cylinder 1's marked here on the coil with number 1. So I'm going to grab it firmly and pull straight out. Pop. Nice to see the terminals nice and clean. And I'm going to lead it out of the boot here. We got our motor mount that's going to be in the way the whole time. So we have number 1. Now, my car comes with these awesome aluminum heat shields. That for the recall for the front front valve cover, the gasket gets replaced because I guess it leaks oil on the front of the motor and could start a fire. One of the things they do is pull these out. But honestly, I like the idea of a heat shield around my boot. I'm not worried about a car fire, so we're going to put them back on. So I'm going to take this and compare it to what seems to be an identical wire. It's a hair longer, but it's the shortest one of the fleet, and this is the shortest run we have. So I'm going to toss this aside. I'm going to put a little dielectric grease inside the connection for the spark plug and the coil. It doesn't go very deep. Yep, I guess it's the same. Neat. And the factory had some grease on it too, if you can see inside there. There's a little bit of grease in there. Never hurts your feelings. So I'm going to take this, and this is just a screwdriver. This happens to be a Robertson's, but lets me get in there, spread it around, and I'll do it on the coil side too. Just put some in there. It's the only time I'm showing this bit, so enjoy it now. Get it in there, spread it around on the metal parts, and this guy is good to go. So let's do that. Run it back under the valley of the engine mount. I got it facing down, so anything that falls in it'll fall off of it. We'll click it on to number 1 of the coil, and it should just click on real easy. And then we'll come on down to plug number 1. Should go click. Click. There she is. So, whoops. You know what I did? I forgot to put the metal cover on it. So now I gotta yank the thing out. Metal cover. Try this one more time. In, and it should go click. Click. There's number 1. Number 3. Looks like if I go under, and then come up, work my way through the mess of wires. Makes me just want to pop them all off, but that's not cool. There we go. That's a snap there. A little dirty metal protector goes here. And we drop number 3 in the hole. Click. All right, let's pop the back. We got a whole bunch now. We got this set here, clips, clips, clips. And I think there's one more. Yeah, there's one more back here, clips, and then the wires. So let's just go ahead, and these are factory ones for sure because they actually have the cylinder number on the wire too. That's usually a factory thing unless you get fancy plug wires, but these are not. But let's get popping. Throw a light on this last one because it's attached to the one of these several metal engine lifting brackets with just a hole. So I got to make sure I pop it right. Okay, so let's start off with cylinder number 2 because we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pull 2 off, which is this guy. And for some reason they have it running in the middle. I don't actually think it matters where they are in the loom. But note to self, number 2's in the middle. Comes up through here. This was already snatched off, so that's great. It's not the most loved motor in the world. And it comes down here, and we'll just yank on 2 till it comes up, because we know where it goes. Pretty awesome. Man, for hell's sake. This is a waste, I'm going to tell you anyway, this is a waste system. Waste spark system. So what it does is it actually fires a spark from this one and it comes back on this one, so it actually passes through both spark plugs. So when one's on compression and about to explode, it sparks it, and the other one, it just sparks. And then when it goes 1 revolution, that other one's ready to go and it just sparks them again. So every spark plug gets 2 hits per combustion cycle. Click. They go in so nice. They come off so hard when they're old. So there's number 2. Next up is number 4. That's 6. So let's come up number 4. You're the next contestant on Spark Plug Wire is yours. Click. Nice. Yeah, they're not very far apart. That might fit a bit stuck. There we go. So the plugs are run on that side, kind of. Let's finish up number 6 here. I'm like, oh, it's too short, but it's not. It's fine. Come in. It's getting tight through there. Come up to number 6. Click. Awesome. So all our cables are run. And they all look fairly not organized, so that's cool. Let's take my 4 clip here, because these 3 guys are going to be in the way. We want to run them as flat as we can. And there you go. So my wires are run to a degree. I'm happy. I get an extra wire loom out of it, which always have to have extra parts somewhere. I guess we'll do the final test now. Spark plugs are in, coils are all in. I'll go grab the key. That's it. Bring the thunder. Did it right. So our 100,000 mile car now has brand new spark plugs and wires. If you got any questions on this awesome Grand Prix, ask them or watch a video, because I've done a lot of repairs on this stupid thing. If you have any comments like, boy, you suck at this, leave them, that's fine. And subscribe to me, Turbo231, on YouTube or wherever other automotive